I had everything sorted. Noise-canceling headphones on, aisle seat reserved, special meal pre-booked weeks in advance. Then the lady in 3C decided my tray belonged to her and accused me of theft. She figured her status trumped every rule in the book, unaware that non-transferable was clearly stated right there on the passenger manifest. That small detail became my shield, and I was fully prepared to defend both my seat and my dinner with it. Before we get into the full story, drop your most outrageous Karen encounter in the comments below. I'm curious. My name is Jim Thompson, and honestly, all I ever wanted was a peaceful flight. Nothing extravagant. I wasn't begging for a complimentary first-class bump, though I wouldn't turn one down. I'm simply someone who travels frequently for business, and over the years I've figured out the real trick to surviving air travel. Master the tiny details you actually can influence. Weather? Out of your hands. Delays? Forget it. The passenger ahead who reclines until their headrest is practically kissing your nose? Beyond your control. But your snacks, your audio setup, and, if you're smart, your in-flight meal? Those you can lock down. That's exactly why, 3 weeks earlier, I logged in online and reserved the low-sodium grilled chicken. Nothing gourmet, nothing flashy, just reliable, familiar, and safe. It's my personal pocket of sanity amid the airborne madness. My closest friend Ivan constantly ribs me. Jimmy, you obsess over the little things. He doesn't understand. At cruising altitude, the little things are everything. They separate a tolerable journey from 5 hours of pure frustration. So when the meal service cart finally reached our row and the flight attendant, a remarkably composed woman named Lena Reed, placed my tray in front of me with a courteous smile, I experienced a quiet rush of triumph. Preparation pays off. I carefully lifted the foil cover, letting a gentle cloud of steam escape, carrying the faint, comforting aroma of chicken and seasoning. For a split second, everything felt right. Quick rewind to the boarding gate. The same vivid pink top, the same clinking gold accessories, the same commanding tone on her phone. I don't stand in lines. I get taken care of, she informed whoever was on the other end of that early morning call. Behind me in the queue stood Big Sam, casually sipping from an oversized juice carton that looked comically small in his massive hands. He leaned in and muttered, "Man, I can already sense the storm coming through the perfume cloud." Back to the present, steam rising like a truce banner, green beans slightly faded but present, rice molded into a tidy dome. I lifted my plastic fork, eager for that first anticipated bite, and that's when the drama erupted, not from the sky, but from the seat directly beside me. The woman in 3C had boarded with the entitlement of someone who believed the aircraft was registered in her name. Elbows flying, voice booming on calls. Her name, I would shortly discover, was Karen Justice. Yes, Justice. The irony practically writes itself. She wore a shocking pink blouse that could double as a warning beacon and enough jewelry to trigger security alarms from the tarmac. Her fragrance was costly and confrontational. She wasn't merely leaning over. She was invading. Her gaze skipped past my face entirely and locked onto my tray. A long, expertly manicured crimson fingernail jabbed toward the chicken, stopping mere millimeters from a green bean. I instinctively recoiled. "That's mine," she announced. Not a question, a verdict. I blinked. Excuse me. Was she claiming the chicken or my entire existence? She pressed closer. "The special meal." I calmly took a bite. Verdict, definitely special. From across the aisle, Big Sam's deep voice rumbled. "Lady, if that chicken came with rules and rice, it belongs to him." She shot him a withering stare. "I'm platinum medallion." I nodded toward the tray. Same level fork. The gentleman in 2D lowered his newspaper just enough to peer over. "Is there a secret diamond napkin club I missed?" Karen straightened her posture. "I'll have your employee number," she declared to the air, apparently addressing the invisible airline hierarchy. I gestured at the food. "Ma'am, this poultry doesn't even carry credentials." Her volume increased, though clarity did not. "That meal," she proclaimed, now loud enough to turn heads, "is my pre-ordered special." The crew messed up. "Hand it over immediately." I'm naturally even-tempered. Surprised, yes, but rattled? No. This was precisely the brand of disorder I always tried to sidestep through planning. Yet beneath that calm, a stubborn spark flickered. My peace is non-negotiable. When someone attempts to steamroll it, I don't shout. I become quieter, steadier. I studied her furious expression, her accusing finger, then glanced back at my modest, rule-abiding low-sodium chicken. I reflected on the 3 weeks of anticipation, the straightforward joy of consuming exactly what I'd chosen, the basic matter of fairness. Then I met her eyes, offered the tiniest, most hollow smile imaginable, and spoke not one word. Instead, I slowly lowered my fork and very intentionally speared a piece of chicken. I raised it to my lips, chewed deliberately, and swallowed. The texture was a touch dry, but in that instant it tasted like pure satisfaction. Her anger rolled off her in waves, almost tangible. I followed with another bite, this time including rice. I had become an immovable bastion of composure, armed only with disposable cutlery. Her expression shifted from imperious to volcanic. The tiny muscles in her jaw clenched. Her eyes shrank to furious slits. "Are you hearing impaired?" she hissed, her tone slicing through the cabin hum. "I said that is my dinner. Stop eating it and give it to me right now." I weighed my choices. I could debate. I could lay out the facts of my order. But why bother? She had zero interest in reality. She craved dominance, my food, my compliance, my surrender. Ivan has a perfect saying for situations like this: never wrestle a pig. You both end up filthy, and the pig enjoys every second of it. Debating her would be like mud wrestling in a thunderstorm. So I opted for minimal dialogue. I simply took another bite, this time a green bean. Slightly rubbery, overdone, and utterly delicious. Her complexion deepened to match her blouse. She wasn't accustomed to being dismissed. She expected instant obedience. Big Sam let out a low, amused rumble from across the way. The issue had transcended poultry. A boundary had been etched into the narrow carpet of business class. She poked my tray again, this time actually making contact. The dressing cup rattled. "Flight attendant," she bellowed, her voice piercing the ambient noise like an alarm. "This passenger has stolen my meal." The trap was set. She'd swallowed the hook and was now dragging the entire vessel into her conflict. Lena Reed materialized almost immediately. Earlier, during the safety briefing, she delivered the lines with charm. "When the seatbelt sign illuminates, it isn't optional. Think of it as gravity that requires documentation." The captain's announcements carried the same relaxed authority, smooth-voiced, reassuring, the kind that makes you believe everything will be fine. Lena approached with practiced poise, floating down the aisle as though on casters. Her serene face suggested she'd witnessed every crisis from cardiac events to peanut tantrums without batting an eye. "Is there an issue, ma'am?" she asked Karen evenly. Karen inflated like an indignant balloon. "Yes, a major one," she proclaimed, jabbing the accusatory nail in my direction once more. "This individual is eating my meal. I specifically requested the low-sodium chicken. You delivered it to the wrong person. I expect you to take it back and give it to me." She said, "Take it back," as though my tray were contraband she intended to reclaim. I remained seated, fork paused midair, the very portrait of serene detachment. I allowed the silence to linger, quietly relishing the ridiculousness of the moment. Tension was present, sure, but part of me, the quietly defiant part, found the spectacle oddly captivating, like observing an extremely furious flamingo in the wild. Lena kept her attention solely on Karen, a classic de-escalation move, no doubt covered in training. "Your name and seat, please?" "Karen Justice, 3C. With status." Lena consulted her device. "Thank you. Status confirmed. Policy confirmed. Facts confirmed." A nearby couple exchanged the slow, knowing glance of people who've seen this film before. Karen flashed her lanyard. "Platinum plus Ultra." Lena remained unfazed. "We're status neutral here. The manifest rules." Karen sniffed. "I know your CEO personally." Lena's reply was gentle. "I know our manifest. Let me verify." She tapped the screen. Karen tapped her foot. I chewed. Evidence is silent. Rules speak louder. Lena studied the display, then lifted her gaze, steady, unflinching. "Ma'am, the assignment is clear. The low-sodium special was requested by the passenger in 3A, Mr. Jim Thompson." She inclined her head slightly toward me. I gave a small nod, as if to confirm. "Yes, that's me, the one with lawful chicken." Karen's smug expression evaporated, replaced by a flash of incredulity. "That can't be right," she retorted. "There's obviously an error." Look again. I'm Karen Justice. Platinum Medallion. She uttered platinum medallion, like an ancient royal decree granting her dominion over all airborne cuisine. She was deploying her trump card, a glossy, impressive title, but Lena remained unmoved. Lena possessed documentation. She angled the screen so Karen could glimpse it. The order is documented here, Ms. Justice, Lena explained patiently. It's tied to the seat. The passenger in 3A reserved it, and it was served correctly. The finality in her tone left no room for negotiation. The tablet's data was gospel. It declared the chicken mine. Karen's emotions flickered rapidly. Confusion, fury, then explosive frustration. Then what am I supposed to eat? She demanded, voice climbing again. I can't have the standard pasta. The sodium will make my ankles balloon. It's a medical necessity. Lena didn't hesitate. I can provide the vegetarian pasta or the fruit and cheese selection, ma'am. I apologize, but pre-ordered special meals are assigned and non-transferable. Non-transferable. For simple syllables that formed an impenetrable barrier. A basic regulation, a single line in the system, but in that instant, it was ironclad. Karen glared from Lena to me and back again. The machinery in her mind whirred. She'd been bested by procedure. To someone like her, a rule wasn't guidance. It was a personal affront. She'd wielded influence, volume, prestige, and lost. The tablet's quiet truth outweighed everything. Around us, zippers closed. Phones disappeared. Tension eased. An elderly man 2 rows behind offered me a discreet thumbs up at tray level, as though we were undercover agents. Karen noticed the quiet support and bristled. Authority thrives on spectators. She scanned for a new audience. She addressed the row behind. Does anyone else feel robbed here? A college student removed an earbud. Only by the legroom, honestly. The thumbs up gentleman added. And by plot spoilers. Kindly stick to your assigned storyline. Karen withdrew, stung by humor. The conflict had evolved. It was no longer about food. It was about dominance. Hers revoked, mine preserved. She collapsed into her seat with an exaggerated sigh, muttering, "This is outrageous. Completely unacceptable service." Lena gave me a brief, subtle nod of regret before pushing the cart onward. The immediate crisis had passed, but the conflict had only just begun. I knew this woman wouldn't drop it. Public defeat wasn't something her type forgave. As I savored another bite of my hard-won, regulation-protected chicken, I sensed her gaze boring into the side of my skull. The only uncertainty was the form her retaliation would take. I attempted to tune her out and finish my meal in peace. I slipped on my headphones, letting a soothing podcast about ancient civilizations muffle the animosity emanating from 3C. It barely helped. Her resentment simmered like a pot left too long on the stove. Roughly 10 minutes later, just as I polished off the rice, it happened. I placed a small plastic cup of water on my tray table, resting on a thin paper napkin. Suddenly, Karen shifted dramatically, reaching up toward the overhead locker. The door swung down. A carry-on edged forward like an eager puppy. Lena instantly intervened, hand raised, halting it with practiced ease. "Please keep your hands clear," she instructed. "Gravity is still in command." Karen manufactured a toothless smile. "I'm just grabbing my cardigan. I'm permitted." "Absolutely," Lena replied. "Once the sign is off, and from your seat." Her motions were abrupt and theatrical. Her elbow swept outward in an exaggerated arc, far beyond necessity, and struck my arm squarely. The impact jarred the tray table. The water cup tilted. Not a full spill, but enough to create a spreading damp spot across the napkin and onto my pants. "Oh dear," she gasped, voice thick with phony sympathy. "How clumsy of me. I'm dreadfully sorry. Did I splash you?" I blotted the area. Accidents occur. Gravity remains undefeated. She waited for an outburst. None came. Instead, I took an especially audible sip from what remained in my cup. Big Sam stifled a laugh. Lena reappeared like a serene specter. "Ma'am, please keep elbows within your seat boundaries." "Are you accusing me?" Karen demanded. "No," advising. "Accusations are reserved for official forms." She knew exactly what she'd done. It was textbook passive aggression, an unintentional jab. I stared at the growing wet mark on my trousers. The water itself was trivial. The deliberate intent behind it was what stung. This was her minor payback. My initial impulse was to confront her directly. Well played, but I saw the move coming. But Ivan's pig wrestling wisdom echoed again. A shouting match would hand her the chaos she craved. So I countered petty with petty. I lifted the thoroughly soaked napkin, a limp, useless thing, and regarded her with that same tranquil, maddening smile. No trouble at all. Mishaps happen. Then I returned to my tray. I still had my untouched water cup. I lifted it carefully and dripped a few deliberate drops onto a fresh napkin. Not enough to drench, just enough to moisten. Then I gently positioned the now damp napkin on the shared armrest, mostly on her side, creating a small, subtle zone of inconvenience exactly where her elbow would naturally land. Nothing overt. No splash. Just a quiet declaration. I recognize your game, and I can participate. I folded the original soggy napkin and placed it in my empty tray. Is that wet? She muttered. Hydrated. I replied evenly. Like healthy boundaries should be. I resumed my podcast. She stared at the damp frontier in silence. The Cold War declared. She'd attempted to sabotage my meal and dampen my clothing. I'd protected my chicken and established a strategic moist perimeter. A minor, absurd triumph, but mine. Eventually, she lifted the napkin with thumb and forefinger, face twisted in revulsion, and let it fall to the floor. She believed she'd claimed the last word. I knew otherwise. The goal wasn't to force her into a puddle. The goal was to communicate clearly. I'm not an easy mark. My stubbornness matches yours. For the following hour, an uneasy ceasefire was held. She flipped magazine pages with aggressive snaps. I listened to history. The truce felt brittle, and I suspected the next clash wouldn't involve liquids. Then the seatbelt chimes sounded. Captain Arlen's composed voice filled the cabin. Folks, encountering some light turbulence ahead. Nothing serious, but for safety we're asking everyone to remain seated with belts fastened. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin. The aircraft began a gentle rocking, irritating rather than alarming. Perfect stage for fresh drama. Karen immediately unfastened her belt. I watched peripherally as she rose, swaying slightly with each bump. Lena, securing the galley, spotted her instantly. Ma'am, the captain has requested all passengers stay seated with belts on. Karen flicked a dismissive hand. I need the lavatory, she declared loudly, as though her personal requirements overrode flight deck directives. She stepped into the aisle just as another jolt hit. She wasn't actually heading anywhere. She planted herself in the middle, gripping seat backs, performing the difficulty of standing. Pure theater. She wasn't going to the restroom. She was proving rules didn't apply to her. Platinum status, delicate ankles, urgent needs. She would stand because she chose to. This crossed a line. Spilled water is trivial. Defying the captain during turbulence is a safety violation affecting the entire cabin. Big Sam growled. For heaven's sake, sit down, lady. Karen glared. When I'm ready. Lena advanced up the aisle, footsteps sure despite the motion. Ma'am, you must return to your seat immediately. You're creating a hazard for yourself and everyone else. Medical necessity, Karen proclaimed. Platinum bladder. The purser appeared. Owen Brooks, voice steady as a locked belt. Ma'am, this is a lawful captain's instruction. Sit now. Owen braced against the galley wall as the jet swayed. Experienced sailor on a steel sea. Karen tried legality. You can't command me. Owen replied calmly. Actually, ma'am, I can. And so can the aircraft. Big Sam muttered toward the window. Aircraft's winning. The plane shivered again. Karen wobbled, clutching my headrest like it owed her rent. I smiled at the clouds outside. Even the sky wants you seated. She refused to move, arms crossed, a stubborn pink monument blocking the aisle. I'm not the danger, she proclaimed to the cabin. The danger is this airline's disgraceful service. They won't accommodate a basic dietary need, and now they demand I sit here like everyone else. She was attempting to tie her meal dispute to the safety order, framing defiance as moral protest. Masterful entitlement. A solo HOA meeting hell-bent on airing complaints regardless of context. Anger surged in me. This had moved beyond my dinner. Her selfish spectacle was endangering crew and passengers alike. What if the bumps intensified? What if Lena stumbled while managing her? My old protective instincts, honed against playground bullies, flared. I wanted to intervene, but I held back. This was Lena's territory. Jumping in might worsen things. I trusted her expertise. Ma'am, this is your final warning, Lena stated, voice now hard as titanium. No more courtesy. This was authority issuing a direct order. Return to your seat and fasten your belt immediately. Another pronounced jolt. Karen stumbled, hand gripping my headrest inches from my face. Perfume filled the air again. For a heartbeat, I thought she might topple onto me. The strain made my jaw clench. Lena's firm finality finally pierced Karen's self-absorption. Perhaps the word final. Perhaps the steel in Lena's gaze. Or perhaps the realization that she was about to lose balance and look foolish. With one last scorching look at Lena, she dropped heavily into her seat and yanked the belt tight with furious force. Another defeat, but her expression promised more to come. Her ego had taken a public hit. She sat rigid, arms folded, magazine abandoned, already plotting. The mild turbulence eased shortly after. The sign went dark, but tension in our row stayed razor-sharp. This was merely a pause. She was rearming, targeting her chief adversary, me. She'd lost the meal battle and the defiance round. What does someone like that do when cornered? She escalates. The moment the sign extinguished, Karen sprang up again. This time she didn't linger in the aisle. She strode forward with grim purpose. I need to speak to whoever's in charge, she declared to the cabin at large. I demand your supervisor. Lena, gathering trays, intercepted her before the galley curtain. Ma'am, the purser is occupied with duties. I'm the lead attendant here. You can address me. Karen brushed her aside. No, I'm finished with you. You've been obstructive. I need a manager. The person who can actually fix this. She believed service operated like a video game. Complain loudly enough and unlock the boss level where demands are granted. Lena blocked the galley entrance. Policies remain consistent at every level, ma'am. The purser will confirm what I've said. Please step back from the crew area. But Karen was locked on target. The curtain represented justice. With startling speed, she shoved past Lena and burst through. I will not be dismissed, she proclaimed. It unfolded in seconds. Inside, a crew member was pouring from a large metal coffee carafe. Owen Brooks stepped forward, steady. Ma'am, the galley is restricted. Karen strained to see past him. Where's your superior? Lena's tone hardened. You're looking at them. Safety and regulations are the only authority here. As she forced her way in, Karen jostled the attendant's arm. Scalding coffee sprayed from the spout. The carafe teetered, one slip from catastrophe. Owen snatched it with a towel, steadying it. The rich aroma hit the air. Karen grazed the hot metal, yelped, and instantly rewrote reality. Assault. That was assault. Lena didn't flinch. That was physics. Fortunately, no one was directly burned, but coffee splashed across the counter and carafe's side. The attendant recoiled. Karen, realizing her blunder had nearly caused serious harm, recoiled too, then touched the still hot surface again. Ow, she cried, yanking her hand back with theatrical agony. She burned me. Your crew burned me. An outrageous fabrication, obvious to everyone present. Lena, the other attendant, several front-row passengers, and I had witnessed it clearly. Karen caused the spill, then touched the hot pot herself. No one had harmed her. She'd harmed herself through recklessness. But she spotted her opening. A fresh grievance, a potential payout. Her eyes gleamed with opportunistic fire. This was better than stealing my chicken. Lena took charge instantly. Owen, are you okay? He nodded, rattled but composed. Fine. Just countersplash. Lena faced Karen, expression icy. Ma'am, exit the galley now. You've entered a restricted area and created a serious hazard. Karen cradled her hand, face contorted in feigned pain. My hand is injured due to your crew's negligence. I require ice, first aid, that man's name. I'm filing a complaint and contacting my attorney. Owen regarded her impassively. A calm man in his 40s, clearly stretched to his limit, he ignored the threats. To Lena, he said simply, please return the passenger to her seat. Lena guided a still protesting Karen back. I watched, mind racing. This woman was astonishing, manufacturing disorder, then attempting to monetize it. The ultimate voucher hunter. As she sat, her gaze locked onto my phone resting on my lap. I hadn't recorded her. I'd been about to message Ivan about the wild flight. But in that instant, a vicious new plan formed. She pivoted from victim to accuser, pointing the crimson nail again, voice dripping manufactured fury. And him, she shrieked, ensuring everyone heard. He's been recording me the entire time. That's harassment. It's illegal. Confiscate his phone. The charge landed heavily, toxic and sudden. Heads turned. Curiosity mixed with doubt. Suddenly, I was the villain. The creep secretly filming an innocent woman. My quiet amusement vanished, replaced by cold tension. This crossed into serious territory. She was accusing me of a crime, all because I wouldn't surrender my dinner. Owen, having followed from the galley, addressed me gravely. Sir, a serious allegation has been made. Have you been recording this passenger? Only about 15 seconds, I answered, for my nephew. He likes airplane wings. Karen crowed triumphantly. See? Show him. I handed over the phone. The clip played, clouds, wing, captain's announcement. No Karen anywhere. Big Sam muttered. Plot twist. He's an aviation enthusiast. Owen returned the device. Everything checks out. The wing has given consent. The man in 2D lifted his headphones briefly. I can verify. That wing delivered an Oscar-worthy performance. Karen spun on him. He slid the headphones back on like closing a door. I looked at Owen. Should I credit the wing in the credits? Owen deadpanned. We'll check SAG rules. I exhaled. 15 seconds of sky and safety announcement. No harassment. Facts prevailed. The clamor faded. Owen reviewed the short clip again, with Lena looking over. The truth registered. Karen, unable to see, continued ranting. He has footage. Delete it. I demand you delete it, and seize the phone. Owen lowered the device, glanced at me, then at Karen. For the first time his composure slipped, revealing faint exasperation. Ma'am, he said quietly, dangerously calm. The recording shows the aircraft wing and the captain's safety briefing. The passenger has committed no offense. The reality hit hard. Karen's gambit hadn't just failed. It had boomeranged, highlighting her own misconduct and providing evidence of her repeated defiance. She stammered, searching for another angle. But he had his phone out. It was threatening. I felt intimidated. Owen shut it down. Passengers may use devices, ma'am. Please cease making unfounded accusations. He returned my phone with a small nod, silent recognition that truth had prevailed. Once again, quiet evidence had dismantled her loud falsehood. Relief washed over me, tinged with unease. This woman was tireless. Each setback made her more desperate, more vicious. She resembled a cornered predator, and I felt trapped in the enclosure with her. Hours of flight time remained. What would she attempt next? As if summoned by the thought, the aircraft dropped sharply. Not a gentle dip, a violent plunge that lifted everyone momentarily before slamming them down. My stomach lurched. Beyond the window, blue had turned to churning slate. The captain's voice returned, urgent and clipped. Flight attendants, be seated immediately. Passengers remained seated, belts tight. This is serious. The plane bucked and rolled, thrown by powerful winds. Gasps. A baby wailed. I gripped the armrests. Overhead bins rattled like percussion in a tense concert. Ice cubes skittered down the aisle like escapees. Big Sam squeezed his rests, face pale. Dear pilot of no particular denomination, he whispered, I honor your process. The captain again, steady but brief. We've encountered an energetic air mass. We'll dance for a moment, then part ways. Silence wasn't on the schedule for row 3. Big Sam was visibly nervous. Another hard shudder. He grunted, tensing. Karen, however, viewed the violence as an opportunity. Despite everything, she unbuckled again. I could hardly believe it. After 2 warnings, she rose once more. Lena, strapped into her jump seat, saw immediately. 3C, sit down now. Karen ignored her, bracing against the seat ahead, wild-eyed. Her apparent goal, create such spectacular chaos that they'd capitulate just to stop her. The plane lurched sideways violently. Karen, halfway up, lost balance completely. She pitched into the aisle, straight into Big Sam's lap. Big Sam, already rattled, shouted in alarm as she landed on him. Reflexively, he pushed outward to regain space. Get off. Not aggression, pure startled self-preservation from a large, frightened man. Karen staggered backward like a toppled pin, directly toward me. Arms windmilling, face frozen in shock. She was going to crash onto me. Adrenaline surged. Anger and instinct mixed. This was the moment her recklessness finally caused real harm. But before impact, Lena moved, blindingly fast. Despite regulations, she'd unstrapped from her jump seat and advanced. In one seamless motion, she positioned herself between us, catching Karen's fall, gripping her arms, and shoving her firmly backward into her seat. Sit. Down. Now. Each word a hammer blows. The sheer authority in Lena's voice, more than the motion, finally broke through. Karen collapsed into her seat, eyes wide, stunned into compliance. Lena quickly checked Big Sam. You all right, sir? Breathing hard, he nodded. Yeah, she just landed on me. Lena gave a quick, reassuring gesture. Then, bracing against seats, returned to her jump seat and secured herself just as another major jolt hit. The entire sequence lasted perhaps 10 seconds, but felt eternal. Lena had acted with extraordinary courage and professionalism, preventing injury and confrontation in the midst of real danger. I sat, pulse pounding. The risk had been genuine. Karen's selfishness had nearly caused a serious incident. I glanced over. She stared straight ahead. Not at me, not at Lena, not at Big Sam. A new look formed, cold calculation. Her mind was already spinning, reframing events to cast herself as victim once more. Her talent for manipulation seemed limitless. The worst turbulence subsided after several more tense minutes. The plane steadied. A collective breath of relief swept the cabin. But Karen was only warming up. Once the motion eased, she began to weep. Not dramatic sobs, quiet, pitiful sniffles. She dabbed dry eyes with a tissue from her bag. Tara Wells, the practical mother seated ahead with her young son Ben, glanced back. You okay? Emotionally low sodium, I murmured. Tara smirked. Copy that. Ben whispered, do wings get snacks? Only if pre-ordered, I replied softly. He nodded as if it made perfect sense. It was pure performance, her strongest yet. She was laying groundwork. She leaned forward, catching Tara's eye. That was terrifying, she quavered, voice trembling with crocodile tears. That big man, he was so rough. He shoved me. And that other one. She waved vaguely toward me. Just sat there. No one helped. She was crafting herself as a vulnerable heroine, attacked by one and abandoned by another. Tara wasn't having it. He was startled because you collapsed onto him during turbulence. After the crew told you to sit 3 times, she stated flatly. Karen pressed on. Her gaze shifted to young Ben, quietly gaming on his tablet. A truly vile idea sparked. She pivoted to saccharine benevolence, turning teary eyes on me. You know what? You should give him your meal. She indicated my tray. He's been so courageous through this frightening turbulence. He deserves something nice. Please let the boy have it. Ben lifted his tablet, showing a bright allergy sticker. Tara tapped it. We carry our own food and follow our own guidelines. Stop weaponizing my child. I was only being generous, Karen insisted. Tara's tone sharpened. Try being seated. A masterful, sinister tactic, using a child as leverage. Refuse, and I become the heartless monster denying a brave boy a treat after terror. She'd gain cabin sympathy, claim my meal, and appear saintly. She assumed she'd checkmated me. I paused, stunned by the nerve. I looked at Ben, perfectly content with his game. At Tara, eyes narrowed in disbelief. At Karen, watching with triumphant expectation, fake tears shining. She believed victory was hers. She misjudged badly. Tara spun in her seat, fixing Karen with a glacial stare. My son is perfectly fine, she said, voice lethally calm. He has his snacks. He doesn't require your generosity, and he definitely doesn't belong in your theater. Leave him out of this. The rejection was swift, total, devastating. Karen was rendered speechless. Her emotional ploy had been obliterated by the very person she'd tried to exploit. Somewhere behind, a lone clap started, stopped instantly because we're adults on a flight, but the spirit of it echoed for minutes. Karen heard it regardless. Quiet disapproval is surround sound. Her deception lay exposed. She hadn't cared about the boy. She'd used him. Tara wasn't finished. She turned to me, voice carrying to Owen and Lena, now standing. For the record, my son has a severe nut allergy. We never accept food from strangers on flights. The stunt could have been genuinely dangerous. That sealed it, the final blow. Not only exposed, but revealed as reckless and hazardous. The entire section had witnessed it. Passengers now regarded Karen with undisguised contempt. Her victim mask had been torn away, exposing raw selfishness underneath. Owen stepped forward, face stern. He consulted his tablet, then spoke. Ms. Justice, Our records show multiple compensation requests from you this year alone. Today's matter will be documented, not compensated. And to be clear, interfering with crew duties can result in future boarding denial. We'd prefer not to enforce that. Karen swallowed a protest and swallowed silence instead. A soft murmur rippled through the row. She opened her mouth. Nothing emerged. For once, quiet suited her. Ma'am, Owen continued, tone final. I need to speak with you privately. Please follow me to the galley. Karen paled. The game had ended. No more maneuvers, no more fabrications, no more targets. She unbuckled meekly and trailed Owen forward. The curtain closed behind them. Tara gave me a small, firm nod of solidarity. Some individuals, she muttered, shaking her head before returning to her son. I exhaled deeply, tension draining. The conflict was over. A single honest truth had shattered an empire of lies. Moments later, Lena approached, holding a small plate, chocolate cake slice, and vanilla ice cream cup from the forward galley. She set it down gently. Mr. Thompson, she said softly, sincerely. Mr. Brooks and I wanted to thank you for your remarkable patience and composure during a very challenging situation. Just a small token from us. I had the dessert. Low sodium. Lena winked. Low conflict. Big Sim leaned across. If you're not eating that. Lena raised an eyebrow. He raised both hands. Strictly research purposes. I passed him the extra spoon. Perimeter investigation only. He saluted it like a tiny trowel. Responsible digging, sir. Across the way, a grandmother offered Sam a butterscotch from a well-worn pouch. Emergency calming supply, she said. He accepted it like a medal. Heart rate stabilized. I guarded the plate. Transferable. Not today. I was genuinely touched. You didn't have to. You didn't have to stay calm, Lena replied with a small smile. We manage what we must, but cooperative passengers make everything smoother. You did it perfectly. She leaned closer, voice low. By the way, Mr. Brooks has already reviewed the cabin camera footage. My eyebrows rose. I hadn't even considered cameras. Of course there were. It documents everything, she continued. Her attempts to stand during turbulence. Her contact with the passenger across the aisle. Her movement toward you before I intervened. And for clarity, it shows your phone was either in your lap or pointed out the window the entire time. Never at her. A profound wave of validation hit me. Absolute, indisputable proof. Her entire web of accusations, lies, and performances nullified by silent digital evidence. Proof versus power? On this flight, proof won decisively. Her strength had been volume, aggression, and deception. The truth lay in data. The manifest, my brief wing video, now the irrefutable cabin recording. Mr. Brooks is preparing a complete incident report, Lena added. Interfering with crew duties is a federal matter. We treat it seriously. She gave another nod and moved on. I leaned back, dazed. I'd only wanted a quiet flight and my pre-ordered chicken. Instead, I'd witnessed a textbook display of entitlement and a powerful reminder of airline protocol. I took a bite of cake. Rich, perfect. The flavor of triumph, justice, and petty revenge completely eclipsed by official consequences. I glanced forward, imagining the conversation behind the curtain. Owen, armed with footage and statements, calmly dismantling every falsehood. No vouchers. No apologies. Only documentation, a permanent mark, and the silent humiliation of being undeniably proven wrong. I savored another spoonful of ice cream and smiled. The most tranquil I'd felt all flight. Chaos contained at last. I dictated a quick voice note to Ivan. Update. Minor details escalated to a medium aviation incident. Chicken victorious. Wing gave a career-best performance. Debrief over fries. His typing bubble appeared, vanished. Then, call me immediately. I silenced the phone and enjoyed the cake. Priorities. The remainder of the journey passed in blissful quiet. When Karen finally returned from the galley, she was transformed. The fire had been extinguished. Righteous fury replaced by defeated slump. She avoided all eye contact, staring blankly ahead. The silence of her humiliation roared louder than any earlier outburst. She'd wielded such force and anger. Now, stripped bare by truth, she was simply a small, exposed individual who'd been caught. The aircraft began descent. City lights glittered below like scattered jewels. Captain Arlen's final announcement. Calm, professional, thanked us for flying, and confirmed our approach. The same steady voice that had begun the trip now closed it, framing hours of meteorological and human turbulence. As we taxied to the gate, I spotted them, 2 ground agents and an airport security officer waiting on the jet bridge. Owen stood with them, tablet in hand, speaking quietly. No surge of vindictive glee, just a calm sense of balance restored. This was the logical outcome of her choices. She'd pushed relentlessly, violated rule after rule, lied and schemed, convinced her wants outweighed everyone's safety and comfort. She'd mistaken professionalism for weakness, my silence for surrender. She'd been wrong on every point. When the seatbelt sign chimed off, the usual scramble for bags felt subdued in our section. Everyone sensed the conclusion approaching. Karen stayed seated, pale, aware they awaited her. She tried one final bluff, whispering into a dead phone. Get legal on the line. No connection. No rescue arrived. The security officer reviewed Owen's tablet, nodded once, and positioned himself by the door like a final punctuation mark. The chapter might be brief, but it would be permanent. Lena walked the aisle, meeting my eyes briefly with a tiny nod, final acknowledgement. She paused at Karen's row. Ms. Justice, she said neutrally, you'll need to remain aboard until everyone else has deplaned. There are individuals who need to speak with you. Karen didn't resist. No argument. Just a faint, defeated nod. All fights extinguished. I rose, retrieved my bag, and joined the slow-moving line to the exit. Passing her seat, I didn't glance down. No final remark. No sarcasm needed. Silence carried more weight than anything I could say. The matter was settled. She demanded my meal and my submission. She received neither. At the door, Owen's calm palm directed Karen aside. Same steady gesture from earlier, now quieter. His hand said stop. In my mind, my fork said proceed. Symmetry. I moved past at fork speed. She'd attempted to commandeer my dinner. The crew enforced the rules. I kept eating.